Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we're going to discuss the final months of Uranus in Taurus. Uranus first entered Taurus back in 2018, and now from November 7th, 2025 until April 26, 2026, Uranus is completing its time in this fixed Earth energy, which has certainly been a game changer in the Taurus areas of your chart. So one thing you can do is look at where you have 0 degrees to 29 degrees of Taurus in your chart by house placement. You don't need to have planets there, but you're identifying where Uranus has been moving through your chart, disrupting life as you knew it and drastically changing these parts of your experience. Now, the house placement is where the energies have been showing up for you through shocks, changes, sudden developments, unexpected revelations that hit you at a core level, that change your life in a significant way. And that's because the Uranus energy happens very quickly. It's electrical shock waves. It's something that hits you out of the blue and you're not the same afterwards. And that is part of how Uranus is meant to liberate us. It liberates us from the status quo, from the old paradigm, from how we were just living our life and going about our day and eating our macaroni and cheese. And now this Uranus comes through and says, but do you even like macaroni and cheese that much? And it hits you that maybe there's other approaches, other options, other ways to live your life that you never even considered. Uranus is unconventional. It is in our solar system right after Saturn. And Saturn is about our structures, what is conventional, traditional, reliable, what you put energy into in order to build it up a certain way. Saturn is where we really own our mastery and where we invest in what matters to us. And because the cosmos has a wonderful sense of humor, the planet right after Saturn wants to tear all that apart, wants to disrupt it, wants to liberate you from those so-called goals or important structure, wants you to show you how to think outside the box. And by the way, who even needs a box? Boxes are overrated. So Uranus comes through and zaps something into your consciousness that changes your own frequency and sets you off on a new course that's meant to reconnect you with your authenticity. And that is one of the beautiful keywords of Uranus, where you come into more of your individual energy field and know more about what you really want outside of traditional programming, societal expectations, maybe what you thought was an idealized dream that was important when you were younger. Well, it looks different as you've lived more life, as you've had more life experiences. And Uranus brings in that sudden understanding that you can have something different. It can look different than what you ever thought or ever imagined, and chances are you could not have imagined it or seen it. So Uranus runs through us as these pulsing shock waves of truth and consciousness that help us detach from what we thought was really important. And in Taurus, Uranus has been really tearing up our values, our comfort zones, our attachments. It's been having us approach the stable foundations of our lives in a whole new way. Now, I have done specific podcast episodes on Uranus over the past number of years. We've been talking about this for a while, but I felt it was necessary to really focus in on what it means here during these final months of Uranus and Taurus, because another theme we've been moving through is that Uranus and Taurus has been dismantling and tearing apart our old earth values and redirecting us into new earth values. And of course, that's going to look different for each of us at a personal level, but at a collective level, it's been working with those Taurus themes that bring us into what it means to have a physical life on this planet. Collective themes of Uranus and Taurus involve agriculture, land use, land ownership, food supply, also what is seeded and grown in the soil. The soil is very Taurian. So looking at how our food supply has changed since 2018. What is now served in restaurants, for example, what is grown in the soil, what we believe is nutritious and good for us that comes from the earth. What is sustainable? A new understanding of sustainability comes through here with Uranus in Taurus, because Uranus shows us what doesn't work, and it does so rapidly. And then it wants us to move forward and determine new solutions or new options that we didn't consider before. Another big theme of Uranus and Taurus has been the financial markets, the economy, and even the sense of it's hard to find stability with Uranus and Taurus. So how have you been guided to look at your own personal finances, salary, income, investments, and make important changes? Look at what is actually happening in the world at large and adjust accordingly. This could also show you what you've had to do differently to reconfigure your lifestyle to fit what you value. Maybe you quit a certain job because you wanted more freedom and you wanted to work for yourself. You wanted to become an entrepreneur. Uranus in Taurus certainly brought in the gig culture, the ability to use your own personal resources to make money, such as Uber, using your own vehicle to make money. Uranus in Taurus has revolutionized what it means to make a living, something that fits you, that fits, again, your overall lifestyle and allows you to do things in a different way and different from previous generations. So depending on your generation and your age, you would sense how you were set free from something that generations before you were expected to do in order to make a living. Uranus in Taurus has brought us into new creative solutions, new ways of understanding what it means to love your life, to build a life that really resonates with what feels correct for you, and how to honor your creative spirit. That Taurus energy seeks peace, calm, and harmony. But with Uranus here, that has not been something we've readily experienced, because Uranus says, well, let's turn it up to 11, create something new with all of this, and it changes your experience of your creativity. So consider, how have you changed your creative expression and what you seek for harmony, peace, and calm? I think of this Uranus and Taurus as jolting our nervous systems into these whole new fields of energy. So would you agree that Uranus in Taurus has significantly changed how you sense your own nervous system, especially in regards to all the unsteadiness in the world, the uncertainty of what's unfolding, where we're going, what's coming up, and of course your own personal life changes that are front and center. So this Uranus in Taurus, it jolts our nervous system out of calm, out of comfort, and then we have to reset it. We have to go find new ways to calm the mind, to meditate, to move the energy. And that might be something to look back on for yourself, where you've had to establish new habits just to get back to that calm, peaceful state. And maybe it's been really difficult at times. Now, how I'm seeing this energy continue to move through us until the end of April 26th specifically, as that's the last day that Uranus is in Taurus and then moves into Gemini again, is that this Uranus is continuing to transition us from old earth values to new earth values, new ways of living that align with what you truly need, new relationships with money, finances, your income, possession, less materialism, perhaps. Maybe you're realizing, you look around what you own and you're like, I don't even need all this. This isn't satisfying. This doesn't bring me joy. Maybe this is too shallow or materialistic. I'm overly focused on what I've spent and accumulated instead of what I might need for the long term or what I really value in living a good life. So we are drastically changing our value systems, both individually and collectively. We are also realigning our energy fields with the earth. Now, Taurus is fixed earth. It's directly connected to the pulsing energetic field of Gaia. And as she continues to move with these changes, we have certainly seen an uptick in volcanic activity, tectonic movements, a lot being realigned on the planet. And of course, that's because our planet is in relationship with other planets, and the biggest relationship being with that very active sun, with the sun being in an intense cycle known as the solar maximum, there's a lot of activity on the sun right now that is, of course, affecting Earth's own evolutionary growth. And I feel that is directly related to what the Uranus and Taurus energies are also bringing up. Uranus wants there to be a rebirth, ultimately. That's part of the revolutionary intention of Uranus. Change is necessary. Let's turn everything over on its head. Let's look at what we can create anew, and let's allow this chaos to lead us to somewhere that is ultimately an upgrade, improvements, and sets us on a new course. Uranus permanently changes our experience of Taurus energies. And that is something that you might notice again by looking back on your chart where you have the full 30 degrees of Taurus. And as this energy completes in Taurus, we reach culmination points of these Taurus themes. And so that definitely involves the increased potential of crashes in the financial markets, more instability and disruptions, economies changing, inflation occurring still. There's a lot going on here that's all related to how we have assumed we'd have comfort, but we don't. Because Uranus says, actually, this needs to change. We are in a cycle that the financial energy, for example, needs to shift, needs to change. Now, in terms of finances, we can look around and see, all right, there have been new digital currencies that have come about since 2018. There are new trade dynamics in place where we exchange our resources with other countries' resources. Trading natural resources is something that Uranus in Taurus rules. This also brings about new alliances, unexpected alliances, surprise announcements around who you're working with, or businesses that actually have a shared value, but they seem to be wildly different. All of that is part of these big changes that are ongoing, and how I feel we're going to continue to experience these final months of Uranus and Taurus is looking at, what am I still attached to? What am I still attached to? Where do I still have a comfort zone that the universe is trying to bust open and drastically change? And that's going to be part of these final tests here of Uranus and Taurus that can absolutely relate to your finances and salary. Now we can put this into a bigger picture of how the world is changing with the influx of AI, advanced technologies, new solutions, new innovations that are coming into companies, businesses, essentially all areas of our lives. And what this means is that we're being asked to revolutionize our self-expectations and our own internal strength. You're able to handle these changes as they unfold. You are able to work with them and make a new choice that powerfully supports you. And even though they're going to come through, or continue to come through with some shock waves, we are made to be adaptable and to adjust. But those are not Taurus strengths. Taurus does not want to budge, does not want change, will resist it or avoid it. And here comes the universe showing you what you've been avoiding, what you've been resisting. And this is actually only holding you back from your next level and from the growth potentials that are presenting themselves. So this is where we're going to feel that discomfort. This is where Uranus and Taurus is returning to the final 3 degrees in your chart and asking you to set yourself free from what you are still attached to, a comfort zone that's actually slowing down your energy. It's preventing you from moving forward. You might sense that you're being released from places in your life that you thought you had to maintain. You had to keep it close to your chest, or you had to keep something strong, secure, and solid. But the universe is saying, no, this is preventing you from growing. This is preventing you from actually moving into the next level, the upgrade, the beautiful new development that is going to come through for you, but you've got to have space and room, and you have to have an opening for it. You could be released from unconscious value systems that maybe you inherited from your family patterns, family expectations, things you thought you had to do to demonstrate that you're a good person or you're a solid, upstanding human. There can be a rigidness here that you're facing in yourself that's deeply revealing. And it's also a big part of your spiritual awakening. And that's what Uranus delivers, especially through shocks, surprises, discomfort. You see what you didn't see before, but it's not often pleasant. And then you have to be in the discomfort of it. And the Taurus energy hates discomfort, but that's what's being served up here, especially through the end of April. There's things that you're meant to see within yourself that have been unconsciously stunted. So it's looking at where have you been unconsciously stuck? Because this is an opening here that the universe is showing you that you've got to work through and work with. You've got to be brave enough to move into the discomfort and the fears. And then when it all comes crashing down, when there is that dynamite explosion that creates a collapse, which is very Uranian, then it means there's permanent endings around a part of your self-value, self-worth, self-love that needs to be recreated in a new form. Uranus energy is actually about new creations, but they happen through chaos. They happen through disruptions and a lot of discomfort, but they're actually meant to lead you forward so you see things in a whole new light and you're able to understand what wasn't solid within you. That Taurus energy, again, it looks to be solid. It looks to be in a place of I'm reliable, I'm strong, I can handle life storms, I can do things on my own. There's dedication and determination there. But there will be shocking jolts from Uranus and Taurus that shows you again where you have been stuck in a comfort zone and what you're still attached to that ultimately isn't going to serve your long-term growth. Uranus can also bring in jolts of awakenings to your psychic gifts. Those crazy insights you get out of the blue that are too surprising to believe, right? They're just shocking blindsides or they're unexpected announcements. And it takes time to digest it. It takes time for your nervous system to move through it and figure it out. So these are big deals, especially when Uranus is in a sign like Taurus, where there is not an innate affinity. They don't naturally sync up. And that's why there can be the resistance, the blockages, the limitations because of that Taurus pushback. And Taurus moves very slowly. It wants to observe, it wants to assess and practically evaluate something. And Uranus brings in the sudden truth immediately, where there's no time to just simply observe and step back. So there's been a lot of discomfort here, is what I want to acknowledge in the Taurus areas of your chart, where you've been on a roller coaster of spiritual awakenings, disruptions, extreme highs, extreme lows, exciting developments, unexpected opportunities perhaps, bursts of creative insight, new ways of living your life even have been presented. And all of that is going to pick up once Uranus re-enters Gemini the end of April 26, 2026. And then that's where Uranus stays in Gemini until 2033. So that's going to be a big deal and faster moving. That's when the pace of life really changes. And when we start to reconceptualize new ways of living that are interesting, exciting, varied, and fast-paced. So as Uranus continues through Taurus, this Uranus is going to be receiving support through a sextile from Neptune in Pisces at 29 degrees. That happens on November 29th. And then Saturn in Pisces sextiles Uranus retrograde in Taurus at 27 degrees, January 20th. And that's when those sextiles are exact, the end of November and January 20th. But I believe they're going to be in play throughout November, December, and January. So what that means is that both Neptune and Saturn in Pisces are showing Uranus and Taurus where to let go, where to release and understand the spiritual lessons, understand the karma, understand what you had to see in yourself that maybe you thought you were above, you weren't able to really get to the heart of it, you didn't see your own blind spots. Both planets in Pisces signify karmic closures and endings in order to close out big cycles, see the higher meaning, understand that everything in life is made to change. Everything in life is going to bring up an opportunity to let go. So there's support here for that Uranus in Taurus to practice forgiveness, compassion, unconditional love, and letting go instead of overly attaching, which is what that Taurus energy wants to do. It wants to, again, not only attach, but then maintain that comfort zone, maintain that energy flow. And so there's things here that we're meant to move away from that maybe you're realizing, I'm finally ready for this. I'm able to gracefully release. I'm able to be set free from something. And it's probably bringing up exhaustion because both Neptune and Saturn have moved in and out of Pisces throughout 2025. And so it's sort of like things haven't been finalized. There hasn't been a period at the end of the sentence. There hasn't been full closure. But this is a time where the universe is saying you have to set yourself free. You deserve better. You deserve more. And there will be a great influx of those higher frequencies as well, especially in 2026 when the energies really start to ramp up and become more solid in our new beginning points. But as Uranus and Taurus interacts with both Neptune and Saturn in Pisces, we might feel we're receiving new insights around these personal life transitions that are right on time. There will be significant endings on the planet. There will be those who leave the planet, who step down, who step away, who physically leave this earthly experience. That is also part of this transition from old earth values into new earth values. Those who are not a frequency match will be leaving the planet as they are not supported, and the energy no longer sustains their frequency. This is why the awakening journey has been so crucial, because you want to basically track and keep pace with where humanity is going while contributing your energy to that evolution as well. And those who have resisted it, who have been against their own spiritual awakening and transitioning into the higher realms, of course, that's their choice. That is their free will dynamic. That's exactly what they can choose. But that's where life is going to get harder. That's where there's going to be more turmoil, more issues, more collapses, because there is not the same amount of energy that supports them anymore. So this is where we're going to continue to see the extremes unfold as more people rise and elevate and others collapse and descend. Keep in mind that yes, we talk about ascension, but there's also descension, those who spiral down because they're not willing to let go. And so this is one thing that is going to be quite strong as we move into 2026, is that the more you're able to let go and release what is over, closed out, no longer in alignment, the freer you're going to be and the faster you're going to ascend. But we're going to see the contrasts in this. There will be more extremes here as Uranus finishes up time in Taurus. Now, Uranus stations direct on February 3rd. At 27 degrees of Taurus. It's important to note that as Uranus moves across these late degrees of Taurus and back into Gemini, Uranus is working directly with the Pleiadian star constellation. The Pleiades, also known as the Seven Sisters, is a very important spiritual, energetic influence on Earth. It's one of the most influential energies as they are direct guides for humanity. Yes, there are other star systems, star beings, and galactic influences that also support Earth's evolution and ascension. But the Pleiades has more of a direct influence, especially as it's been connecting with humanity's heart chakra and crown chakras to elevate our compassion, our unity consciousness, our empathy, to support our intuitive development, also our telepathic abilities. This is an energy system where you might feel that things are awakening within you and heightening your psychic abilities every time Uranus interacts with these energy points. And so if you give permission, if your free will says yes, then you can have even deeper activations through this influence from the Pleiadians that will assist your own evolutionary journey. What that means is that you might feel that you're evolving into a new version of yourself beyond a typical human, beyond your five senses, that you could sense you're really embodying more energies and higher frequencies. And the word embodiment is important because Taurus is an earth sign that's grounded in the physical world. And so it's affecting the frequencies that we embody. And I feel that we are going to have many more people who open up to their fuller soul story, where they originate from, what beautifully connects with their frequencies, where they are supported by other star beings and galactic family. I think these messages are going to be even more prominent because Uranus already spent time in Gemini. And Gemini is the energy of the mind, communications, the two halves of our brain, how we receive information, what we think about, what we ponder. And there was something about Uranus being in Gemini for only a few months that opened up parts of our mental processing systems, that blasted open where we were previously stuck or stagnant in understanding the bigger picture of our lives and of our energy fields. So after Uranus was in Gemini, it has started that reprogramming of what could be, asking new questions, expanding our horizons, even opened up a willingness to conceptualize what it means to be human. And so now with Uranus back in Taurus, still interacting with the Pleiadian energy system, there's going to be new self-awareness that arrives. You could feel that you're getting more of those messages and downloads more easily. They're coming in faster, they're bigger, they're more striking, and yet they deeply resonate. They just deeply connect to who you believe yourself to be outside of this single lifetime or this single physical vessel. I believe that's going to be a big part of the shocking new discoveries that happen here with Uranus in Taurus for these final months. So after Uranus stations direct there on February 3rd, then Uranus moves ahead and is going to have some very abrupt final messages, changes, collapses, distractions, and liberations. This is where the financial systems could certainly take a hit, that there could be more of an economic crisis and instability in the job markets. People will be searching for new ways to make their income and their salary. There's also the theme of moving from a product-based business, products relate directly to Taurus, into services and educational content of Gemini. And I think that's going to be a big change in the business markets too. Well, not all of them, of course, but that's what I'm noticing is that how much do you really need to buy and own physically versus what are you interested in studying, learning, and understanding? Where can you travel more, have more freedom? You don't want to be tied down or locked in one area or one location. Uranus in Gemini certainly brings in more of the digital living values, but we have to decide how much of that we really want, how much of that really affects us and supports us in a healthy way, because of course we need grounding. We need calm. We need to detach from our devices, from our phones, from all of the electrical currents that are always moving around us. We need to find a way to step away from all of that. And I think this has been part of the issue as we move into more of the new earth values, is determining how much of my life is lived online and with digital technologies, and how much of it is overwhelming me to the point where I need to just step back and step away, have a sacred space where these devices and the internet can't intrude. These are going to be more of the big questions that we will each be redefining for ourselves in 2026 and beyond. Now, after Uranus leaves Taurus on April 26, 2026, we're then going to have Chiron move to 0 degrees of Taurus the middle of June until the middle of September 2026. And this gives us a heads up into where we need to let go. Because Chiron in Taurus fears loss, fears letting go, doesn't want to move outside a comfort zone. And even though Uranus has been jostling all these themes and creating instability, Chiron here is going to show us more of how we really feel about it and where we're healing at a deeper core level, what it means to be strong and secure on the planet. Now, I do believe that every time Chiron enters a new astrology sign, it is an initiation into what needs to be healed. And so the wound comes up loud, clear, and strong. So do keep in mind that June into September, these Taurus energies are going to be quite paramount, and they're going to give you some kind of reality check around these Taurus themes that I've been discussing. So this would be a good time to look at, what do I really need? What can I pay off? What can I sell? What can I let go of? Where am I living outside my means, that it's excessive and it's not really providing much value? Instead, it's just turning up the costs and creating more for me to contend with. This would be a time to look at where you can set yourself free, as I believe that will help you in moving through the upcoming Chiron and Taurus energies that, again, not only start in 2026, June to September, but then come back and really begin in 2027. This could be embodying more of a less is more approach to life, simplifying, getting rid of, again, what's excessive, but then really focusing on what you love, what brings you joy, what lifts your energy on a regular basis, and investing in more of that. What have you obtained that you really want to keep? What have you grown and built that still really matters to you? Where are you understanding that nothing outside of you really embodies your self-love and self-worth as much as how you embody it and own that energy internally? And when we embrace that at a core level of our being, we can handle anything that comes our way. We know how to keep loving ourselves, keep owning our worth, keep moving through life with a high sense of personal respect, self-love, dignity, peacefulness, and beauty, because that then is amplified out of your aura. It infuses the environments you move through and travels with you everywhere you go. So if you have planets or points at 27, 28, or 29 degrees of Taurus, you are moving through a final chapter here of big life changes as Uranus sets you free from what doesn't serve you for the long term, reveals where you are overly attached, and wants you to identify that there are new potentials here, new ways of moving forward that maybe you can't see in the chaos, but will present themselves and reveal even more that aligns with what you really want in this life. We'll continue to discuss these Uranus and Taurus transiting energies in my weekly podcast every Wednesday, but I hope this gives you an overview of the final lessons, culmination, and big life changes that are underway in the Taurus areas of your chart. Again, those final degrees, 27, 28, 29 degrees of Taurus, and you're meant to be set free. There is a shake-off that's happening. Even if it feels like a collapse, there will be new earth to rebuild upon. And if you want a heads up on more of the new earth energies that are coming in, please check out my 2026 Soul Growth Astrology program that is just released. I released it because so many of you said you wanted it. It's a program you've relied on for many years, and it helps you navigate the year ahead. So I was happy to create that for you, even though I wasn't planning on it. I just heard from so many of you that you really wanted it. And hey, I'm always about more astrology. Here, let me give you some more astrology to work with, especially if it's supporting you and tuning you into your own chart even more. So please check out the 2026 Soul Growth Astrology program to see how the next year is going to unfold for you. It's going to be very different than 2025. It's actually going to be much calmer, even though there's waves, yes, even though there's big changes, but it's not going to be the intense back and forth and big disruptions of 2025. Hopefully it also isn't as overwhelming or chaotic, but we'll see how it goes. So do check out the information below the podcast. Otherwise, I'll be back every Wednesday and Monday for a new episode. Thank you so much for joining me. I have such gratitude for you that you make time for this podcast, and I hope it deeply resonates and give you some insight into what is going on in your own world. So wishing you a beautiful day ahead, friends. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you back here soon.